One thing I've been seeing a lot of on videos and, all this stuff is First Strike is the most broken keystone. Why would Riot add this into this game? It's so broken. They've destroyed everything, and I've decided to actually do a video on that because it actually does frustrate me when people put out videos like these and they don't really put any facts forward. They just show a bunch of footage of them stomping on people and norms. If you're truly trying to make an argument, you should actually put forward an argument, not just put out dumb videos. So this whole video is going to talk about First Strike. Is it as broken as everybody is saying is? Is it overhyped? Well, that's what we're here to find out. Is First Strike overpowered? Before we get there, everyone make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and enjoy the video. Detective Hashinshin mysteries, solving things, figuring them out, solving cases, investigating. What is that? That's a cat. Detective Hashinshin mysteries. The first thing you would want to do when evaluating whether or not First Strike is overpowered is to compare it to some of the other keystones that do similar jobs and see if it feels out of line as compared to those keystones. The most closely relatable one, at least in my opinion, is probably Electrocute. Both of them do upfront burst damage and both of them have no sustained damage. Both of them have a 25-second cooldown at level 1, but First Strike's cooldown does go down to 15 seconds at level 18. First Strike does have the downsides that you need to hit an opponent before they hit you, or at least at the exact moment that they hit you, and that it's going to deal less damage throughout the course of the game. Now, it does do more things than just damage though, and on the champions that use it instead of Electrocute, it is outperforming it. So the question is this gold generation, is this better for the champions? Is it superior than just doing more damage? You don't always need to power creep exactly what makes something good to make something that's better. To give you an example of how this can often work in other games, we have Magic the Gathering. So in Magic the Gathering, and these two cards that I'm going to show you. One is Searing Spear. You can do 3 damage to a creature or 3 damage to a player. Then we have Searing Blood. Searing Blood deals 2 damage to a creature, and then if that creature dies, you deal 3 damage to the player. Searing Blood does obviously have some drawbacks. It does less upfront damage, but when you use it properly, you end up with 5 total damage, whereas Searing Spear can only end up with 3 damage. That means for most people, you would obviously go with Searing Blood instead of Searing Spear. Even though it's worse at doing the exact thing that Searing Spear is trying to do, it's still overall better. Wrapping back now to First Strike, the question is going to become, is the bonus gold generation on First Strike good enough that it's now just blatantly better than Electrocute for the champions that can use First Strike? You shouldn't just be making keystones that are better than other keystones because League of Legends is not a card game. Now, I can't exactly just go through this on my own, and I can't just say, I can't just do the math and figure out, is the bonus gold generation on First Strike so good that it's outperforming Electrocute and Dark Harvest and Arcane Comet and all these other burst runes? Is it just outperforming them so hard? There's no mathematical way to determine that. What I can do is look through the stats, particularly at Masters Plus, because we've been on a 3-week patch, so we've got some good stats. We can look through these and we can determine, is First Strike outperforming Electrocute on the champions that are picking Electrocute and First Strike? Are the champions who can use First Strike, are they just outperforming everyone else? We can really actually just pick apart these stats and compare it to other things, and we can try to form an opinion here just based on the stats, which is the most fair way to do this. Is First Strike as broken as everyone is saying it is, and is it dominating the meta like people are saying it is? Now don't worry, I'm not going to be clicking through everything here and subjecting you guys to having to stare at all these stats forever. I have identified a few key champions because I did look through all these before making this video. I'm not sitting here on video looking through all these. That would be pretty stupid and ridiculous. So, looking through all of them, and the top 5 picks, if we look at top, Jace is going First Strike, #1 pick. If we look at jungle, Talon is going First Strike, he's a #2 pick. If we look at mid, Victor is going First Strike, he's a #1 pick. If we look at bot, nobody's going First Strike, that probably was not a big surprise. If we look at support, nobody's going First Strike. Once again, that probably should not have been a very big surprise. So when we go into a closer approach on Jace, we can see pretty clearly when we look at Masters Plus, First Strike is dominating the picks, it's dominating the win rate. The higher number is the win rate, the lower number is the pick rate. It is the highest pick rate and actually the highest win rate keystone too. often lower pick keystones can actually end up stronger because they're more niche and will do better in specific situations that don't occur very often. We can see Phase Rush is still the second highest win rate, and personally my belief is that Phase Rush is still probably better in very specific matchups, but overall we can see First Strike is utterly dominant here. Even if we go to the lower ranks in Platinum to try to get higher data, because obviously there's way more Platinum games than Masters games, we can still see First Strike completely dominant in pick rate, completely dominant in win rate. Nothing comes close. Electrocute has been totally replaced by First Strike. Phase Rush remains somewhat competitive, but nothing else even comes close. Unfortunately, if we're trying to draw a conclusion here or comparison, I think it's really dishonest to do that, and I do have something against dishonest YouTubers. Let's be clear here. Jace is pretty abusive on First Strike. For Jace, when he procs First Strike at range, he can go into melee and get the 100% of bonus damage rather than the 70%. Other range champions can only get the 70%, and because of how First Strike works, you generally need to be ranged to be able to get the first hit in to proc it. Jace is the only champion who can actually proc it at range extremely consistently and also be melee to get the 100% of bonus damage dealt as gold. Unfortunately, that means that you basically can't draw a conclusion on Jace, and instead we should probably ask Riot to make this a bit more consistent. Now, this would be my takeaway from this. Based on how much better First Strike is doing on Jace than any other keystone, we should probably say if he procs it at range, he should probably get the 70% of bonus damage dealt as gold, even if he goes into melee. I'm okay if he procs it in melee, if he gets 100% bonus damage, even if he goes into range after that. But let's be blunt, it's pretty unfair that he's the only champion in the game right now that can consistently proc it at range, then go melee and get the 100% of bonus damage dealt as gold. That's just unfair, and let's be honest here, you can't really draw a conclusion because this is a pretty unique thing going on here. On to Talon, we can see something sort of similar. At Masters Plus, we can see Electrocute is still for the most part doing okay, but with a much lower pick rate. Conqueror is doing okay on him. First Strike has the highest pick rate. Its win rate is not actually the highest though. Talon, I actually don't think there's a clear conclusion on this. Electrocute is a higher win rate with a lower pick rate. Conqueror's doing okay. So between Electrocute and First Strike, I don't really see a clear conclusion here. Talon obviously gets a melee version of First Strike, and he generally jumps at you and bursts you down. So the bonus damage and the bonus gold, particularly because this is jungle Talon, gives him somewhat of an advantage. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to go down to Platinum to get more data again. Now down at Platinum, we can see that First Strike is doing basically the same, but Electrocute is doing worse. So on this, it might just be an anomaly that when we go to Masters Plus and we only look at one keystone, that there's so few games being played, Electrocute might have just randomly won a lot of games. So if we check on the ranks, here's Diamond, here's Plat 2, we can see the higher rank you go, the higher Electrocute goes in win rate pretty consistently. So on this one, I would actually say there's no clear conclusion, to be fair. I think that First Strike is probably just as good as Electrocute, but to say it's blatantly better, particularly as you get better at the game, I'm not sure I would agree with that one. I do think that it's probably better that Electrocute at the lower ranks where games tend to end earlier. Getting a kill early on will generally snowball and be more important than having a gobload of mid-game gold. So on Talon, I would actually say that there's no clear conclusion here that you can say First Strike is overpowered. Personally, I just don't see it in the stats. Now we need to talk about Victor. Now, Victor is literally the highest win rate and literally the highest pick rate mid laner at Plat Plus. That generally means the champion is obscenely overpowered, okay? We can see even when you go to Masters, he's an obscenely high win rate and very high pick rate. This champion is extremely busted right now. Here's the thing with Victor though, when we look at Plat Plus, we can see that First Strike is completely dominant on this champion with an extremely high win rate and an extremely high pick rate. However, we can see that Summon Aerie is still over here with a pretty high win rate, decent pick rate. Phase Rush continues to be picked with a decent win rate. I think Phase Rush should be in this champion's arsenal and a lot of these ranged champions arsenals as a counter pick keystone. When we go into Masters Plus, however, we see that the pick rate of Summon Aerie goes up considerably, as does the win rate. The win rate of First Strike goes down a little bit, the pick rate goes down a little bit, but it is still the dominant keystone. The question I have to ask then is First Strike just new and popular, or is it dominant over his other keystones? Is First Strike the reason why he's dominating, in other words? Well, the answer is no. So what's making Victor so dominant? What's allowing him to break the game? Well, it's not his keystone at all. It's his items. Shockingly, and you might call me biased, but mages need to have weak items because magic damage continues to be the strongest damage type. We can see here that by giving Victor strong items in Cosmic Drive and Crown of the Shattered Queen, that his win rate started to skyrocket. Notably, we can see that pretty directly with Cosmic Drive because it has a considerable win rate increase over his other two items in that same slot. It was not First Strike that made Victor overpowered at all, but rather his new item choices. Now, we can see that Victor will very likely go down because Riot is nerfing both those items in the very next patch in a few days a large amount. I could be wrong. Are people maybe not that good at using First Strike? Could they get better? In a month, am I going to be coming back here saying I'm so wrong? I could be. I don't think I am, but I could be. My personal opinion is the only champion who's doing so outrageously good with First Strike right now is Jace. Even with Victor, which everyone's blaming First Strike with Victor, it's not Victor, it's not First Strike, it's his items. And those are both getting nerfed. So is First Strike the new most broken keystone ever made? Is it as broken as all these videos are talking about? Is it destroying the game balance? Has it power creeped everything? Well, no, actually, no, it hasn't. Is it frustrating as a melee champion to have First Strike procced on you repeatedly? Yeah, that's pretty annoying. I'll give it that much. That much is not really that fun to deal with, actually. But has it destroyed the game? No, it hasn't. I mean, I don't really think there's any way you can look at this stuff and actually say to yourself, yeah, it's ruining the game. It's just not. It's not. With that said, everyone make sure to like, everyone make sure to subscribe, everyone make sure to leave a comment down below. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for watching. As always, please join my Patreon. It supports me and helps me make videos like this. You can find the description in the link down below. And thank you all for being here. Special thank you to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you all. I hope everybody has a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.